The scarf wasn't for her. That's what made it worse. She'd spent the last 3 months saving up for it. Walking past the same boutique window on her way to class, pausing each time just long enough to picture her grandmother's smile. It was a silk scarf, hand-stitched, soft as wind, with tiny gold threads that shimmered when the light caught them. Her grandmother had once said, in a voice barely above a whisper, "That's the kind of thing I'd wear if I ever felt rich." Maya had never forgotten that. She didn't come in to impress anyone. She didn't wear designer labels or heels that clicked on marble. She wore her favorite sneakers and a gray coat her grandfather gave her last winter. She walked softly. She looked gently. And when she stepped into the boutique, she smiled politely, nodding to the woman behind the counter. The woman didn't smile back. She looked Maya up and down once, just once, and that was all it took. "Sweetheart, that scarf is $5,000, she said with a practiced grin. "Maybe try something in the back rack." Maya didn't argue. She didn't defend herself. She simply nodded, thanked her, and turned to leave, her eyes stinging but dry. She was halfway down the block when she pulled out her phone and called her grandfather. She didn't cry. She just said, "You were right. Some people only see what's in front of them." He paused, then asked, "What store?" 25 minutes later, a pickup truck rolled up to the boutique curb. It was dusty, quiet, and wildly out of place. The engine cut, the door creaked open, and a man stepped out, tall, slow-moving, with a folded folder tucked under his arm and a weathered coat draped over his shoulders. He didn't say a word when he walked in. He didn't look angry. He didn't ask for a manager. He simply looked around the boutique like he was checking the condition of a place he hadn't seen in a while. Because that day, he wasn't just Maya's grandfather. He was the man holding the deed to the building. And the boutique? They didn't own a thing. Maya had never been someone who needed much. She grew up in a town where sidewalks cracked like smiles, and neighbors shared sugar without asking for it back. Her clothes came from places that didn't have logos, and the most expensive thing she owned was a second-hand backpack. She had patched herself, but there was a kind of elegance in her. Not the showy kind, not the kind you could pin to a label, but the kind that came from how she moved through the world, without apology. She was raised by her grandfather, Henry, or Granddad, as everyone called him. He was part wisdom, part grit, part mystery, a quiet man with soil under his nails and a memory like a vault. People in town knew him as the man who owned the land everyone else rented from. Not because he bragged, he didn't even own a cell phone, but because he never let anyone forget their dignity, not even when they had nothing. Maya carried that same quiet. When she got accepted into a university in the city, Henry didn't throw a party. He just nodded once and said, "Go remind them that soft things can be strong too." She'd been living in the city for almost a year now, long enough to know which streets stayed loud at night and which stores buzzed with invisible boundaries. There was a boutique on the corner of 3rd and Willow, small, glossy. The windows were always immaculate, like glass that had never been touched by real life. Every month, they rotated displays, handbags that could pay rent, watches that whispered 6 figures, and scarves that seemed to float in place, like they were too delicate for gravity. One scarf in particular always caught Maya's eye. Pale cream, embroidered with soft gold, hand-stitched along the edges. It reminded her of the kind of thing her grandmother would describe in stories. Elegance, folded and tied gently around the neck of a woman who had lived a little. Her grandmother had never had anything like that. but she'd spoken about it once, years ago, while folding laundry by the back porch. "That's what rich looks like to me," she'd said. "Not diamonds. Just a silk scarf that makes you feel like the moment belongs to you." Maya never forgot that either. So, when midterms passed and her campus job handed her a bonus for top performance, Maya decided to do something she hadn't done before. She decided to buy the scarf. Not for herself, for her grandmother's memory. Because sometimes what you wear isn't for the mirror. It's for someone else's voice, echoing through time, finally getting its moment. It was a Saturday when she walked in. The store was quiet, lit like a museum. A woman behind the counter, polished, sharp, draped in black, looked up briefly, then returned to folding a rack of cashmere. Maya stepped carefully. She didn't touch anything, just looked. The scarf was still there. Third shelf, center, gently propped like it belonged in a glass case. She took one small step closer, and that's when the woman spoke. "Sweetheart, that's $5,000. The words weren't cruel, but the tone, it cut like a paper-thin insult. Maya turned gently. "I know. I'm here to buy it." The woman blinked, clearly amused. "Maybe try something from the clearance section in the back," she said, "just so you don't get your hopes up." Maya opened her bag slightly, revealing the envelope she'd folded 3 times, filled with cash, every bill carefully saved. She didn't pull it out. She just wanted the woman to see it. But the woman didn't even look. She had already turned away. Maya felt her throat tighten, not because she didn't belong here, but because someone had decided that for her, and she hadn't even been given the chance to speak. She left the store quietly, not defeated, just done. Outside, she found a bench down the block and sat for a moment, watching the city move like it didn't care who got hurt inside its walls. She pulled out her phone and called her grandfather. He answered on the second ring. She didn't cry. She didn't ask for anything. She just said, "You were right. They don't always see you. Just your coat." He was silent for a long moment. Then calmly, "Which store?" The boutique was still quiet. The lights were still perfect. The scarf still sat exactly where it had been all month, untouched, expensive, and waiting for someone who fit the look. Maya stood outside the window again, this time not with awe, but with a stillness she couldn't quite name. She wasn't sure what her grandfather planned to do. She hadn't even expected him to come. But 25 minutes after the call, he was there. A weathered '97 pickup truck pulled up beside the curb. It rumbled, coughed once, and then went quiet. A few heads turned, mostly curious, mostly dismissive. It didn't belong in this part of town. Neither, it seemed, did the man climbing out of it. Granddad stepped down slowly. He was tall, with shoulders bent slightly from time and labor. His boots were worn, his coat older than the woman behind the boutique counter. But his walk? Steady, controlled, like a man who'd walked into rooms much colder than this one, and warmed them just by standing there long enough. In his left hand, he held a leather folder, the kind real estate lawyers used before things got digital. In his right, nothing. He didn't need anything else. The boutique bell chimed softly when he walked in. Maya followed a few steps behind, not saying a word. The same saleswoman looked up. Her smile was more performative this time. A little too bright, a little too tight. "Sir, I'm sorry. Can I help you?" Granddad didn't look at her. Not right away. He stepped inside slowly, eyes scanning the walls, the displays, the carefully curated lighting. Then he turned to Maya. "Is this the place?" She nodded once. Only then did he speak to the woman. "You spoke to my granddaughter earlier." Her smile flickered. "Oh, she was just looking. We tried to help her find something more appropriate." Granddad opened the folder. Inside, a thick paper, slightly yellowed at the edges, notarized, dated, signed. He handed it to her without flinching. "That's the deed. My name's on it." The saleswoman took it, confused. She skimmed the top line and stopped cold. This is for the building." He nodded. "That's right, this building. The land it sits on. Every brick from here to the sidewalk." The color drained from her face. The boutique had always bragged about being independently owned. But rent? That still had to be paid. To him. Silence filled the space. Not awkward. Not angry. Just heavy. Real. The kind of silence that made you remember your tone, your words, your assumptions. The boutique owner came rushing out from the back, younger, slick, trying too hard to smile. "Mr. Carter, we didn't realize." Granddad didn't look at him either. He looked at Maya. "Pick it out. The one you came for." Maya's voice caught slightly. "I don't." He nodded. "You do?" She stepped over to the display, picked up the scarf. It felt just like she imagined it would. Lighter than air. Warm like memory. They walked to the counter. Granddad pulled out a worn leather wallet and placed 5 crisp $100 bills on the counter. No discount. No negotiation. Just respect. Paid in full. As the woman wrapped the scarf in tissue, hands slightly trembling, he leaned slightly forward and said, not unkindly, "You don't have to remember my name. Just remember this. You never know who you're talking to. And sometimes, the quiet ones own the ground you're standing on." After they left the boutique, Maya didn't speak for several minutes. She sat beside her grandfather in the truck, the scarf resting in her lap like it was made of something more than silk. He drove like he always did, one hand on the wheel, one elbow resting out the window, the city rolling by like it had nothing left to say. At a red light, he glanced over. "You okay?" She nodded. "I didn't expect you to come." He didn't look at her when he answered. "Didn't come for them. Came so you'd remember. You don't need their approval. Just need to remember whose name is on the doorframe, even if it's not painted there." Maya looked out the window and smiled softly. It wasn't about the scarf. Not really. It was about the space she had taken up in that store, and how easily someone had tried to shrink it. But now, the space was hers again. Back at the boutique, the air felt different. The saleswoman was quieter, her movements slower. She didn't reach for her phone once. She stood behind the counter, folding sweaters that didn't need folding, trying not to think about the way her voice had sounded earlier that day, because now she could hear it. In her head, on repeat. The condescension, the assumption, the smile that had never reached her eyes. The boutique owner had retreated to his office, calling their property liaison, in a panic. But there was no crisis, no lawsuit, no angry Yelp review, just a reminder. The kind of reminder that doesn't yell. It just stays. The next day, a new sign appeared on the front counter. Small black with silver letters. "We believe in dignity first. All are welcome here." No one made a speech, but something had changed. A week later, Maya walked by the boutique again. She didn't stop. She didn't press her face to the window like she once had. She didn't even glance at the scarf display, though she saw briefly that it was gone. Instead, she saw a little girl inside with her mom, trying on something soft and pastel. The woman behind the counter wasn't the one from before, or maybe she was, and her eyes were just different now. When she looked up and saw Maya passing, she smiled, a real one this time. Maya didn't wave back. She just nodded and kept walking. Spring came soft and early that year. Maya was walking through campus one afternoon when her phone buzzed with a photo from her grandfather. It was blurry. He didn't believe in autofocus, but she could still make it out. Her grandmother's old rocking chair, positioned on the porch in the late sun, and resting on its back. The scarf, draped there gently, like it had been waiting all along. She closed her eyes for a moment and smiled, not at the scarf, not even at the memory, but at what it meant to finally give something back to someone who gave you everything. A few weeks later, she received a letter in the mail, hand-addressed, thick envelope, real ink, no branding, no corporate gloss. Inside was a note from the boutique's owner. Miss Carter, we owe you more than an apology. We owe you reflection. As of this month, we've started something new, a rotating tribute in our front window called the Honor Shelf. Each month, we feature a piece from our collection, paired with the name of someone in the community who inspires dignity, kindness, and strength. The first name will be stitched into the lining of a gold-trimmed scarf. Her name is Evelyn. Thank you for reminding us what real elegance looks like. Maya read it twice, then folded it carefully and placed it between the pages of her grandmother's favorite cookbook, the one with the spine that never quite closed, and the notes written in pencil from a time before Maya could even read. That weekend, Maya walked past the boutique again, not because she needed to, but because she wanted to. The window display was different now. There was still silk and glass and soft lighting, but this time there was also a small wooden plaque, hand-carved, unpolished. It read, "For Evelyn, who taught us that respect doesn't come with a price tag." Behind it hung a single scarf, cream-colored, gold-threaded, and proud. Maya didn't go in. She didn't need to, because some victories don't need to be worn. Some victories are in the way you walk past a place that once made you feel small, and know that now someone else will walk in and be treated right before anyone checks their shoes. Back at home, Maya sits with her grandfather on the porch. The sun dips low. The scarf is folded neatly on her lap. He doesn't say anything. He just sips his coffee and nods. And that's more than enough. Asterisk, asterisk. They didn't know who she was, but now her name's in the window, and the land they stand on, still hers. Asterisk, asterisk.